guys, so today we're starting in on chapter 9, which is actually our last chapter where we're dealing with fractions, or dealing almost exclusively in fractions, but today we're going to work in decimals as well. Today you're going to complete the Show What You Know as well as the vocabulary builder, and we're also going to do lesson 9.1 because I'll be honest, we're a little bit behind in our math, and so we're going to have to speed it up a little bit. So remember, if you don't know American monies, feel free to look it up online or ask one of your parents as well. It's kind of similar to what we use here in Europe, but there are some small changes as well. Obviously, they don't look the same, okay? But it is kind of important to relearn this because whether we like it or not, later on in this chapter, they will use American money for the lessons, okay? When it comes to vocabulary, there are some new words, so make sure that you can go and hunt through and find those yellow highlighted words, and these are the preview words for this unit. So find the yellow highlighted words in the coming lessons and see if you can figure out which one is which, okay? But we are going to go into lesson 9.1 today, and we're talking about tenths and decimals. Now, decimals is a new concept for you guys, but you've actually seen decimals be used quite a bit. So, for example, say I go to the store and I want to buy a new game, and the price of it is $25.50. Okay, I'm sure you've seen lots of kind of different prices like this as well. And this is what we call the decimal point. And the decimal point's job is to separate the whole numbers on the left side from the fractional numbers on the right-hand side, or the decimal numbers on the right side. So I know that I need 25 whole dollars. But then what's this here? Well, if you know that $1 equals 100 cents, then you know that this, well, that's 50 cents. And if you want to write that as a fraction, that would be 50 out of 100 cents. Or if you wanted to simplify it, 5 tenths. So this is 25 whole dollars and 50/100ths, or easier said, 5/10ths of a whole dollar. Okay? So this is a concept that we'll continue to explore throughout this chapter. If you don't 100% get it now, don't worry about it. So let's go on unlocking our problem here. So it says Ty is reading a book about metamorphic rocks. Ooh, special kinds of rocks. He has read 7/10ths of the book. What decimal describes the part of the book Ty has read? So today we're going to work on converting from from fractions to decimals. So a decimal is a number with one or more digits to the right of the decimal point. You can write tenths and hundredths as fractions or decimals. So one way is to use a model and a place value chart. So fractions, we got these. These are easy. Shade 7/10ths of the model. So think the model is divided equally into 10 equal parts, and each parts represent 1/10. So I'm going to write 7/10ths, right? And if I wanted to shade it, I would shade all the way up to here. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Now I've got my 7/10ths. And I read 7/10ths. But if I want to change that to decimals, this is how we do it. So 7/10ths is 7/10ths. And this is where we need to remember our place values. So remember, when we've got whole numbers, it goes from 1, tens, hundreds, and so on and so forth. It actually goes the other way on the other side of the decimal point, okay? So we start with, we've got our ones here, we've got our decimal point, now we've got tenths, hundredths, and you can probably guess that if you wanted to continue on, it would go thousandths, and so on. So 7/10ths, we don't have one whole yet, and so we would write 0 here. 7 goes into the tenths place, and now we have a decimal. So we can write 0.7 or 0.7. Okay, and we can still read that as 7/10. So another way is to use a number line. So we'll label the number line with decimals that are equivalent to the fractions. So then we'll locate the point for 7/10. So we start with 0/10. So that's nothing, and that's 0.0. Kind of looks like a little smiley face here, right? And then we move 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, and so on, all the way up to 10/10, which is 1 whole, 1.0. Okay, but we've got these fractions in between. So 1/10 is the same as 0.1 or 1/10. 2/10, 2/10, 3/10. Okay, remember the space right beside, right to the right of my decimal point is the tenths position. Zero 0.7 or 7/10, 0.8, 0.9 or 9/10. Okay, and then we need to label the line with the decimals that are equivalent. So locate the point of 7/10, which they've highlighted for us here, and 0.7 or 7/10 names the same amount as 7/10, the fraction. So Ty read 0.7 of the book. So explain how the size of 1 whole is related to the size of 1/10. Well, the size of 1 whole is 10 times the size of 1/10, right? So if I wanted to do 7 wholes, that would actually be 10 times the size as 7/10. So how can you write 0.1 or 1/10 as a fraction? Well, it's in the way that you say it. You can write 1/10, okay? Because I know that my position right here, just to the right of my decimal points, is my tenths position, okay? So we'll move on to our next. Tara rode her bicycle 1 6/10 miles. What decimal describes how far she rode her bicycle? Well, you've already written a fraction as a decimal. You can also write a mixed number as a decimal as well. So for a fraction, I would shade 1 6/10. So these are both divided up into tenths. I would shade all of this. Okay, and then I would shade 6/10 of that. So from here to here. Okay, and I would still write 1 6/10 and read 1 6/10. If I've got my decimals, 1 6/10 is 1 whole and 6/10. So this time I need to use the ones place to the left of my decimal point because this is for my whole numbers. So my whole number goes here, my 1 goes here, and now I've got 6/10 and nothing in the hundreds place. So I write 1.6, 1.6, and I read 1 6/10. Another way of doing it is using a number line. So I can label the number line with equivalent mixed numbers and decimals and locate the point 1 6/10. So I start off with 1. So this just shows 1 and this just shows 1. Now I've got 1 1/10, 1 1/10, 1 2/10, 1 2/10, 1 3/10, 1 3/10. Now I need to do 1 4/10, 1 4/10. I think you get the idea. Can you continue filling these on your own until the last one you need to fill in will be 1 9/10, because then here we bump up to 2. So the decimal, the fraction will go back to 0, and now we've got a whole number of 2 instead. And that is how I know that I have 2.0 here, 2 0/10. So my final decimal number will be 1.9 or 1 9/10. So Tara rode, I've got to go and actually show you where Tara rode. So Tara rode 1.6. So 1.6 names the same amount as 1 6/10. So Tara rode her bicycle 1.6 miles. So try this. Write 1 as a fraction and as a decimal. There are different ways of doing this. So the first one here is to shade the model to show 1. So I shade the entire model. The fraction is 10/10, or I could simplify it to 1/1, 1 over 1, 1 whole. And then if I want to show it as a decimal, 1 is 1 whole and 0/10. So 1 and then 0, right? So my decimal number would be 1.0. Okay. We'll do another some of the share and show with you. Let's see. This one says write 5/10 as a fraction and as a decimal. Well, fraction I know will be 5/10. Okay, and if I want, I can shade it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'd shade all that. And then I know that I don't have a whole number here, so I've got 0 in this position, and then 5/10. So my decimal is 0.5, 0.5. Okay, try this one on your own. I'll do one more version of the number line with you. So we're going to write the fraction or mixed number and the decimal shown by the model. So here my point is here. So I started off with 0, gone all the way up to 1. They've done 5/10 for me and 0.5 for me. So 6/10, 7/10, 8/10. Okay, so that's the fraction that they want me to write, 8/10. And what's the decimal there? 0.6, 0.7, 0.8. And the decimal would be 0.8. Okay, so how can you write 1 3/10 as a decimal? Well, 1 3/10 is 1 whole and 3/10. So I'm pretty sure I'd have 1 in my ones place like that, and then I'd have my decimal, and then I'd have 3 in the tenths place. So 1.3. Okay, so guys, finish the rest of this on your own, and don't forget to do these 2 numbers of the Sharon Show. Work the rest of this on your own, as well as the whole page of problem solving, okay? And remember, describe the error. So that means that you actually need to tell what the problem is, okay? Not just write the correct answer. All right, let me know if you have any problems. Thanks, guys.